Hello and welcome to the channel. If you're a fan of scary stories, you've come to the right place. On this channel you'll find stories that are true, some are fictional, but as long as they send a chill down your spine and make the hair at the back of your neck stand up. A fair warning though, some stories contain graphic, violent or sexual content, so viewer discretion is advised. So without any further ado, let's get into it. What the F happened in those woods? By Redditor Calligrapher Pitiful 3. This is a true story and I've been kind of obsessing over what the F happened out there. I'll try to keep it as brief as possible without leaving out key details. I grew up deep in the mountains of Shoshone County, an hour from a grocery store. The wilderness is my peace and my home, but these woods, they are evil and I never should have come to Washington. My wife's Uncle Jay bought some land just north of Spokane, Washington, with a friend of the family, Kay. They got it at a significant discount because a nearby aluminium smelter had polluted the ground and it was impossible to use the water beneath the ground. They had set up 2 plots and each had a camper to live in. Jay had been progressively getting paranoid and saying people were stalking him and watching him in the trees. About 3 months into living there, a man wandering through the woods there had an interaction with Jay and ended up attacking him and breaking his jaw. Upon being arrested, the man said he was overcome with a desire to see if he could kill him with a single punch. 2 months later, Jay was murdered in his sleep on the couch in his camper. Kay found him and immediately ran as far away until he stopped to call the police. There was sufficient evidence of who did it, and they quickly caught the killer, who was a 19-year-old boy who said he simply wanted his bike. He beat him to death with a power tool that was lying on the floor nearby and completely bashed his brains in. Kay was completely terrified at all times to be there alone. He had moved in with a family member until 8 months later he ended up with nowhere else to go and had to return. In constant fear, he finally convinced my pregnant wife and I to come stay with him. The second I turned off the highway onto the property, I was overcome with dread. There were at least 250 crows covering the dirt road up to the property. I didn't sleep whatsoever the first night. I stayed into the forest searching for the cause of my intense fear. The energy of this place was so uncomfortable, and I assumed it was simply just knowing my Uncle Jay was killed here. Even the days were eerie. Never did I have a moment where I didn't feel watched here. My wife and I always had a sense of fear, especially after dark. Things sort of normalized for a while until one day Kay began puking and feeling very lightheaded all the time. I took him to the hospital and they said he was fine, probably the flu. At this point, it was the anniversary of Jay's murder. 3 days after the date of Jay's death, Kay comes running out of his camper screaming, "I can't breathe!" waking my wife and I up, and we ran out to see what was wrong. Kay had gotten into his car and floored it, crashing into a nearby tree. I ran up and peered through the window to see the most intense and most primal fear I've ever seen in someone's eyes. He was gasping and clutching his chest. Moments later, he breathed out one last time, and he was dead. We gave him CPR for 30 minutes until EMS arrived. On July 10th, 1 year and 3 days after moving there with Jay, and they were both dead. Now it's only me and the wife alone on the property. Every moment living in fear and not understanding what had happened here. I don't know why we didn't leave right away. One day I came out to get fresh water from a drum we kept for water to smell the worst smell I'd ever smelt. The water container had a 1-inch opening on top, and inside the water were bits and pieces of chipmunks, like spines and heads. They didn't fall in. Something ripped them apart before putting them inside. I never saw anything other than shadows messing with my eyes, nearly always filled with unease and intense fear. Fear in the woods, even at night, is new for me. We all get a little spooked in the thick of the wilderness, in pure darkness, but compared to my home, this wasn't even a wilderness. The snapping of branches and pine needles crunching underfoot haunted me every night. The screeching owls loved to chime in right at the height of my anxiety. The nights were spent peering into the pines, watching, always waiting for whatever evil to present itself. I knew it was out there and it wanted me to know it too. One night, My wife and I returned home to have the worst feeling I've ever felt. Every second driving up the long dirt road increased my anxiety tenfold. Something bad was ahead, and it was clear. The thick fog shrouded the pines. If it wasn't for the glimmer of the full moon, it would have been pitch black. Everything looked different. Although it was right where we left it, nothing seemed in place. Looking around, I suddenly see this orange, long-haired, manged cat sitting on a stump. This cat's eyes were so intense, fiery, almost glowing, but not quite. That cat, in my mind, was the embodiment of pure evil. I saw darkness in its soul. We start hearing branches snapping, pine needles crunching, seemingly from every direction. The brush was swaying back and forth, clearly indicating something was running within. Here I am, still staring at this cat, almost frozen in fear. Suddenly a voice breaks out, echoing through the forest. "Hello? Is anyone out here?" A little girl, I thought, but something was off. My gaze finally breaks with the cat, and my eyes dart towards the road. My wife yells back, "Hello? Are you okay? Anybody?" The voice had changed. "Help! Help me!" It was the same person, or thing, yelling, but as if it was trying to disguise its voice. We yelled back several times without response. "Somebody fucking help me!" The most intense, shrieking, evil-sounding voice of a woman cut deep into my body. I'm filled with more intense fear than I can ever describe, but my wife is overcome with a need to find this person, and she started to head off into the forest without a word. I grabbed her by the arm and tell her that something isn't right. Why won't she respond to us? She tries to break free from me to go off alone. I tell her to get into the truck and I'll grab the spotlight. We aren't going on foot. We roll the windows down and shine my intensely bright LED lights throughout the forest. We slowly creep down the road, yelling back. As we get further down the road, the voice strikes out. "Please! Won't anyone fucking help?" Sounds are difficult to pin down in the woods, but this one was very close. I hit the brakes and stop immediately. We shine the lights and yell back, searching. No sign of anyone, when suddenly the voice explodes into the cabin of the vehicle as if they were standing right outside my window. "Help! Help me! Somebody fucking help!" Leaving my ears hurting and ringing. I hit the gas and didn't look back. I called the police when I hit the highway, and afterward they said there was no one around. I picked up our stuff the next day, and my wife gave birth the following day. We never stayed there again after the baby was born. What the hell could do these things? I never even believed in paranormal things before, but I don't know, what else happened? We all had been blood tested while living there as well, and no toxic metal levels on either autopsy report. As simple as it seems, nobody had any poisoning whatsoever. What the F happened in those woods?